Good morning, everyone. How are you, Sergio?
Good, good. And you, Jaime?
All good, all good. I'm excited about the podcast today because we have with us Steven Tey, senior advocate developer at Vercel. How are you, Steven?
I'm doing really well. Thanks so much for having me.
Where are you right now, Steven?
I'm currently
Where's
based
that
in
sunny
Dallas.
room? In
Yeah, it's
Dallas.
really
Oh, I thought it was
sunny.
San Francisco. Okay.
I know. I moved there about 9 months ago now, and the weather has been kind of unpredictable. Today we have a pretty decent weather, so I'm not complaining. But sometimes it's like really cold, sometimes really hot, so that's crazy.
So,
The, the hard question, how does it compare with to San Francisco?
I don't want to talk bad about Dallas, but I do think that San Francisco is still like because I was based in San Francisco for about 5 years before this, and it has a special place in my heart. Both from like the people, there are builders, like people building really cool stuff in tech. There's a big community, larger than what we have
Mm,
here, and also like just the nature. Like there's hills, there's beaches if you want to go to.
yeah,
You can't really find any
yeah.
of those here, but of course, Dallas has its pros, which I'm trying to like enjoy as much as possible while I'm here. But eventually, I do want to move back.
so you're part of the San Francisco temporary diaspora, basically. So people moving
Pretty
out of the
much,
city.
pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. So Steven, talk to us a bit about like your personal and professional career. How did you end up at Vercel? What did you do? What did you study? And what did you do after school?
Yeah, that's a good question. So my name is Steven. I basically did data science in college. I was originally born and raised in Malaysia. It's a small country right above Singapore, and so I came to the U.S. for college. Did data science for about 4 years. Somewhere in between, in the middle, I was like, I really want to build a product that people can actually use instead of just experimenting inside a Jupyter notebook or like a Google Colab notebook. So I was like, I need to learn how to build websites, how to build web applications. So I started learning HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and started picking up jQuery out of all things. And that's sort of how I got to know about like I had a machine learning background, so I naturally used Flask as the web framework. That's when I built my first side project. It's called One Word Domains. It's actually still functional. It's still making money right now. So that sort of drove me into the startup world. The product actually won a Product Hunt Golden Kitty Award, and I started building my Twitter audience that way. Eventually, I got to know about Vercel. I was like, wow, this is really cool. Like you can, one click deploy and get a website going in just a few seconds. I started tinkering around with the product, and I was like, wow, they have a domains product. So I'm building something related to domains. Might as well reach out to them and see if we can do some sort of partnership here. That's when I got to know. So it's funny, like I reached out to partnerships at Vercel. That's the email address. They never responded to me. A week
And
later, I was like,
you were fresh out of school by then?
I was still in school actually.
Oh, you were
I was like,
still in school. Okay.
I'm just gonna go, yeah, all in, reach out to them. And a week later, I was like, screw it, I'm just gonna reach out to the CEO, send an email to Guillermo@Vercel.com, which is not really the email he uses, but it got redirected to him. So he saw that and he actually responded. He was like, we are not focused on domains, but we'd love to get to know you. So that's sort of the first point of contact that I had with Guillermo. Got to know him, had a few Zoom calls, eventually got to meet him in person. That was before their Series C, and I really enjoyed our conversation at the time. And right after college, I was like, I want to build my own startup. I actually got a small seed round. Um, but then when Guillermo heard about that, he was like, why don't you join Vercel instead and use Vercel as an accelerator for your career? You can learn about B2B SaaS, about sales, about open source, hiring and managing people, that sort of stuff. And I was like, wow, this is a incredible opportunity. Vercel is a great company. And I sort of weighed my pros and cons, and I chose Vercel. And the rest is history. And I think I'm like, looking back, it was the best choice I could have made for my career. And yeah, that's basically the whole story here.
And that's pretty cool. I mean, I think it would be great if you can explain us a little bit more about what Vercel does and how does
Hmm.
it feel from the inside, because it's a company that you guys are innovating like really, really fast, are changing the way the web is being created, actually launching very innovative features all the time
Hmm.
and organizing the next conf and all these events with massive audiences. So how do you do everything? How does it feel?
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like Vercel is like this concentration of really really smart and high performing people. that are coming together to build something really special to change the way we build websites and web applications. So the way I build, and that's why there's so much like output, like so much cool events and products launching. But the way I sort of pitch Vercel is it basically gives you the ability to create any web related product at the moment of your inspiration. So like if you think, oh, I really want to build this e-commerce site, you go into Vercel, you choose a template, or you can build one of your own, and you can go from idea to production in less than in a way shorter time than it would take you if you were to go with something like AWS or like build something from scratch. Furthermore, with whatever you have from that, it can scale to millions of users without you needing to worry about DevOps or DDoS or like all these complex DevOps processes at all. So that's basically the way that Vercel is changing the way Vercel is changing the way people build websites and web applications all across the world.
Mm. And what is your role? I mean, I think here, I mean, we at KFund, the portfolio of companies is very wide. There are a few that are in B2B SaaS or SaaS software industries. I mean, what do you do at Vercel as a senior developer relations?
Yeah. So the role that I have at Vercel is it's a combination of several things. First, building starter kits and templates that people can easily clone and deploy and try out Vercel's products. And second, basically representing like the face of Vercel on social media like Twitter, on GitHub, on Discord, being able to convey what users are looking for, their pain points, what bugs they're facing back to the product team. And third, I also get to work on deals with several different customers of different sizes. And sort of my swim lane, the thing that I focus on is platforms on top of Vercel. And what that means is people that are building blogging platforms, newsletter platforms, website builders like Webflow, Framer.com, those kind of companies. That's the sort of companies that I focus on. And that's partially because of the starter kits that I've built before that targets that kind of use case. And that also relates to a side project I'm building. It's called Dub. We can talk about that later. But basically, it's also a platform on top of Vercel because it offers custom domains to its users. So that's sort of a combination of all these different things. It's a very engineering heavy position. You got to really understand what the product does from the ground up and be able to explain it to people of different experience levels. You might need to explain it to a senior DevOps engineer at a large company or to a college student who's starting out. So it really needs you to become ChatGPT. Basically, you gotta be able to
Yeah.
explain what Vercel does to different sorts of people. So yeah, that's basically
Yeah.
my role.
So it's a very engineering driven like role, but I mean, considering what you were describing, Stephen, it's also like a very like a role where you need to have very different skills. So because in a way you
Hmm.
were talking about doing some form of marketing, you were talking about doing some form of sales. So
Yeah,
it's like the kind of role that combines a very different set of skills in order
exactly.
to get to those goals that you were mentioning, right?
Exactly. And that really aligns with my personal interests because at the end of the day, I really want to start my own company still. So this is a really good way for me to practice selling something. Um, in this case, it's Vercel, also the platforms and Vercel initiative. Basically, be able to sell that and build it. Also, like ensure that people have a good developer experience when they're using the product. All those different things is really something that I find passion and I'm really passionate about and I love doing. So yeah.
So how would you say that is the right, like the path as someone that is thinking on becoming a developer relationship advocate
Mhm.
should follow? I mean, what will be
Yeah.
your recommendation to this kind of role?
Yeah, that's a really fantastic question. I think in now that I'm here looking back, I would recommend anyone who wants to become a developer advocate to start building out your portfolio, start contributing to open source projects, start releasing your own open source projects. You could build on Tinybird's API, you can build on Vercel's, whatever. Just build something out in the public, have everything, have a blog, blog is great. A YouTube channel if you're interested in making videos or podcast, all these different things. If you're building out in a public to show that you can build, you can market your content. That's a really good combination for people that are looking to hire developer advocates. I was just talking to this friend of mine who's the CEO of Mage.ai. They're like a data pipelining platform, and he was asking me how do I find the best developer advocates? They're hiring their first developer advocate. So I told him like you really need to find people that have a unique combination of being able to build and being able to market what they built. So this sort of, if you think of a Venn diagram, people that are in the middle are gonna excel at this role because they can promote. If they can promote what they built, they can promote what your
Yeah,
product is, especially if you're a DevTools company. So yeah.
yeah, that's a good one. So it sounds like a little bit of an indie hackers kind of role, right? All these people that are launching like their own products, building their own products in public, and then making money out of them,
Hmm.
because that's a good proxy of how good they are taking it to market, right?
That's a good point. Yeah, exactly. And also the ability to write good documentation. That's something that gives you an extra edge because you can help with the initial, like when the startup is small, you don't really have a docs team. Now that Vercel is big, we have a docs team, but when it's small, the developer advocate has to sort of do all these different things. So one
Yeah.
thing that I forgot to mention is documentation as well. So yeah, 100%.
And do you think, Stephen, for founders listening to us or listening to this conversation that are perhaps like about to launch or have launched like companies catering or selling to developers, do you think that
Mhm.
developer relations role is something that you need to have like top of mind from day one? Is it someone that can wait until you have like obviously a product ready, but
Yeah.
some traction, whether it's in terms of sales or just usage, or when do you think founders should start thinking about the role?
Yeah. As a founder of a developer tools company, you're essentially the developer advocate, right? The first developer advocate for your tool since the beginning. The way we did it at Vercel, I believe, we hired Lee Robinson, which is our head of developer experience. I believe it was around Series A, like when they had sort of a product market fit and they needed to go take it to the next level. So I would, in my opinion, I mean, I'm not really a founder yet, but I would say that to hire your first developer experience person, I think that should come at around C to Series A, like when you are comfortable selling the product and you need to sort of find another you to take over that part of the developer advocacy process. That's when you should hire.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, go, Jaime.
No, go, go, Sergio.
I was about to ask about then how to align the incentives between sales, marketing, and the BEX or
Mhm.
developer relations.
Mhm.
What are the main like KPIs that you guys track or that someone should track when hiring a developer relationship or relations advocate?
Yeah, that's sort of a question that I've sort of posed and asked about internally at Vercel as well. So how do our roles overlap? Because as I mentioned earlier, developer advocates sort of do a lot of things. So in this case, like I feel like a good way to visualize this is you think about the top of the funnel, right? There's the marketing to sales funnel. Developer advocates at the top. Like you basically put out content, you spread the goodwill, a good word about the product that you're representing, and you sort of funnel in prospects that could potentially become SQOs. That's what we call it, sales qualified opportunities, over to your salespeople, and sales basically takes it over after that. But that's sort of the way I think about it. And in terms of aligning incentives, I feel like it's really interesting. Like you can choose to pay a variable part of the salary. So like a portion depending on your you can say number of SQOs that you have in a year. That's actually something that I tried out internally at Vercel as well. Or you could just pay a flat salary. It really depends on like what the
Mm.
kind of person you're hiring and what sort of salary expectations that they have. But
Mm.
both of these could work out really well. One like with a portion of the salary being variable, and the other one being the entire salary being fixed. So yeah.
Yeah, you briefly mentioned something before, Stephen, that we think is super interesting. And it's actually something that we've talked about with our companies many, many times, which is about building community, which is
Hmm.
part of the marketing part of developer relations. What do you think you guys have done good, and what do you think you guys could have done or better or can improve at Vercel when it comes to building a community of developers around the company? What are some best practices that have worked well for you that you could think translate well to other projects out there?
Yeah. At Vercel, we have we've built communities on different platforms. The main one that I can think of is Discord. We have an active, I think it's 45,000. I don't remember exactly. Maybe it's 50,000 now, but there's a lot of developers on the Discord channel, basically asking questions, debugging issues, this and that. And obviously communities on Twitter, it's more like spread out. You can't really quantify that. And also GitHub. And I'm not a person in charge of that. I know a very good friend of mine and colleague Hassan is the one in charge of the community efforts. But the way we sort of manage this is we tried out different tools. The most recent one right now that we're using is called Common Room, as a tool for you to gauge the health of your community and identify members that are the most active. Whether it's, they can make connections between this user's profile on Discord versus their profile on GitHub, and
Yeah,
sort of understand which one is the people they should target. So that's a great way, like using technology to understand your community and build it that way. But also at the same time, there's definitely needs to be a top of the funnel, like I mentioned earlier. You got to be able to market your community, market your product to your community well, and sort of have a good brand. Ultimately, that's the one that's driving the growth in your community. So, and we also recently hired a full time community person who would answer issues in GitHub. People like he would get to it really quickly. If someone posts an issue, she gets to it in like 15 minutes. It's pretty crazy. Another thing that I believe it's underrated is also Stack Overflow, because if you're a developer tools product, there's a lot of Stack Overflow questions that I can see they're either unanswered, or they don't have the right answer, or the answer is outdated. So that's another way you can sort of funnel people into your community by building. I know it's not very obvious, right? It's like on Stack Overflow, people are kind of faceless. You don't see their face, but at the same time, it's sort of the way that you can build a great developer tools product, because you have all the
yeah.
answers when people are debugging their issues.
We will see what happens with GPT now and
That's
Stack
that's
Overflow.
a good
Not
point.
everyone is using it for everything, but yeah.
Yeah.
And by the way, I mean, I think a great. I don't know if you call it community effort, but what you guys are doing with the next conference is amazing. I mean,
Mm.
how many people attended to the last one? Because it was massive,
Over
right?
100, yeah, over 100,000 signups, and I
Wow,
think
that's crazy.
50,000, yeah, attendees worldwide. And
In
I think,
person?
no, 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 like it's the
No, no,
Okay.
global, like the digital conference, but also we have in person. I think it was 800. I don't remember, but it was quite
it
a
was
huge
massive, right?
crowd. Yeah, that
Yeah,
showed out in San Francisco. That was pretty amazing.
I think it was one of the first events that was organized in
Was it
person in the technical kind of environment, and it was a very
exactly?
successful one, right?
Yeah, because all
Yeah,
our previous conferences were online, and this was the first hybrid conference that we had. And it's really cool because we also had viewing parties in cities.
yeah,
So like in London, we had people come out and watch the keynote, get to know each other. Because not everyone can fly to San Francisco, so that was a good middle ground that we had.
yeah,
And yeah, that's I can't believe I left that out, but that's a great community building effort. We spent a lot of money like making that happen, but it's 100% worth it because we get to connect with our community and show that Vercel is not just a white triangle with a black background. We're way more than that. We're people building really cool products, and I feel really passionate about the community and the product that we're building. So yeah,
yeah,
that was a really fun event that we had.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
How early in the company's history did you start working on or launching the conference? How early did you do that?
I believe it was the first one. The first ever conference we did was um 20, I don't remember exactly. I think it was 2019. So they did one back in the day when it was just like less than 50 people, like 40 people in a company, and they organized Zeit Day in San Francisco. It was a small little meetup compared
Yeah,
to
I get it.
what we did in
Sure.
NextConf. I believe it was 7 years ago from now. So very early on, like first or second year into the company. Don't quote me on
Yeah.
that though, but I remember it was pretty early on. It was like literally 7 to 8 people from Vercel, and the rest was community members. I saw some pictures. That's how I remember.
And then I remember you guys created this like virtual ticket for the conference
Yes.
at the beginning, and you open source that too, so other people could use as a
Mhm.
template in Vercel, I guess, and as a starter
Yeah.
kit there was
Yeah.
very cool. I also remember, by the way, the first office that Vercel had. I mean, I remember Guillermo tweeting photos of it. It was just an
Mhm.
empty room with four tables, one in every every corner. It
Yeah.
was so cool. It was so cool.
It was crazy.
So
Yeah.
great. That was crazy.
Yeah. I
That
think the
we were
tickets.
talking. Go go
No,
go.
I was just gonna quickly mention the tickets that you brought up. I think that's also something that I feel like it's. I'm not sure if anyone did it before, but in my memory, like Vercel sort of kickstarted a trend of having digital tickets that are personalized to
Yeah,
your GitHub profile, to your picture, to your
yeah.
whatever color you choose. And there sort of was a great viral loop that we had because people would share their
That
links
was
on
brilliant.
Twitter, and the OG cards, the open graph cards that are showed on Twitter was personalized to their username. So
Mm,
that was a great way for us to build that viral momentum
yeah,
for the conference registration. So
that was brilliant. That was brilliant. Hey, we were talking about GPT before. I mean, we've seen you tweeting some stuff about the GPT plugins and
yeah.
so on. We were before the podcast. We were mentioning how fast everything is changing and how relevant all these new technologies are becoming when launching a new product. Can you tell us a little
Mm.
bit more about GPT, how you're using it, the
Hmm.
plugin system? I mean, now do you have access and all
Yeah,
this kind of stuff?
of course. So the way I view GPT and AI, and the recent crazy boom of advancements that we've seen in this space is, if you could draw an analogy here, Vercel is building this platform for people to easily create websites and easily scale it to millions of users. And this experience, if you take that and look at what OpenAI is building, they basically built an AI API that people can easily tap into without needing to train their own models, without needing to, figure out how to scale the DevOps behind these API via these API endpoints. So OpenAI is doing really cool stuff, and I think that it basically unlocks all this opportunity for folks like Notion to add AI to their platform, for Instacart to add AI to their shopping experience, for Tinybird to integrate it into creating pipes and generally improving the user experience for all these tech products that we're so familiar with. So yeah, we've been experimenting a lot with that at Vercel, and I think that's something that I'm really excited for because we've rolled out a lot of templates to show how you can integrate these APIs into a web context. So a good example is streaming. So streaming, how that works is basically you ping an OpenAI API endpoint, and from that, while it's still generating the response, you're already showing it to the client on the website. So that's a really cool feature. You might have seen it if you play around with ChatGPT, how the bot will like type each
Mm,
single letter and it just streams in. So yeah, those are stuff that we've been rolling out to basically educate people on how they can build something like that for their own products.
cool. That's cool. From your point of view, what is the use that we are missing from ChatGPT or the OpenAI API now? I mean, because everyone is looking at it from different points of view and building very different stuff. Using it for enriching data, using it for scrapping websites, using it for. I mean, the latest demo it was like ordering all the ingredients you may have for a recipe and so on. So, what are
Mhm.
the uses from the developer point of view that you guys are missing at Vercel or
Mhm.
you are missing personally?
That's a good question. I think there's a lot of of use cases to be explored, especially with the launch of ChatGPT plugins. That's a good segue there, because that basically unlocks that basically allows developers from all these large companies like Expedia, etc., to be able to build an extension on top of ChatGPT and allow the 100 million ChatGPT users to be able to easily, do research on what trips they want to go on. Or I feel like there's just so much. Like recently, I got access to the plugins, and I actually launched this little plugin that allows you to check a domain if it's available or not when you're brainstorming ideas inside ChatGPT. It's a very simple idea, to be honest, but it provides a lot of convenience to ChatGPT users because when they're looking for a domain name, they want to know if it's available to register. They want to get a link to buy it, and they want to compare like which registrar has the cheapest price for the domain. So that sort of is what I built, and yeah, I think there's so many use cases that have yet to be explored, and this is just one of them, a very simple one. Um, so yeah,
That's pretty cool.
And from what you're saying, Stephen, I was thinking both from a like personal, from your point of view as a senior developer advocate, but as well from the company. I guess that one of the key traits of this type of role is experimentation, right?
yeah,
Because I mean, it seems like you're continuously trying new things for your own curiosity, most likely, but also for the benefit of the company. So two questions there. I mean, how and given the fact that Vercel, I think it's up to more than 400 employees, so it's not a startup, a
hmm
small startup anymore. I mean, how important is it to get buy-in from your managers or from the management of the company
hmm
to allow for this kind of experimentation at this scale? And then
yeah.
also related to that, I mean, how do you yourself as Steven, how do you try to be up to date on what's going on out there to be able to apply that back to the company?
Yeah, I think getting buy-in, that's definitely a very important thing, especially as the company grows. Like if you're a startup, you could just I'm just gonna build this and you do it. But as the company grows, you need to get resources from design, from engineering to sort of figure out what's the best way we can make this product since you're launching it under the Vercel name. So there's a few. I think there's sort of different scenarios here. First is if you're building a larger scale product. For example, I'm building this version 2 of our platform starter kit that, as I mentioned earlier, it's a template for people to build their own platforms, whether you're a blogging platform, website builder, etc. So we're revamping that to add AI integrations, to add Stripe integrations and stuff like that. So that's something that I needed to write a proposal outlining what I wanted to build, and sort of got buy-in from leadership, from my managers, and because that's a product that Vercel is launching officially. Whereas compared to the side projects that we're building, me and my colleague Hassan, we build these really cool side projects that we generally do on weekends or after work. We just launch it, and it uses Vercel's products. It promotes Vercel, and those sort of things. It's fairly easy to just go ahead and do it because the technology is already there. We're pretty well versed with it. So, and with the rise of Tailwind, it really gives us the edge to go from idea to something in production less than a day or two. So that's another aspect of it. Going back to your second question, can you remind me what it was?
Yeah, from a personal standpoint, I mean,
Yeah.
this
How do you stay on top of
how
it?
do yeah, how do you stay on top of things?
Yeah, I think Twitter is a great way. Like, there's just so many cool products, people launching cool shit, cool stuff on Twitter every single day. Like yesterday, I just saw this guy connect Siri to ChatGPT through like a
Oh
iOS
yeah.
shortcut. It's amazing. Like that guy's been building a lot of open source stuff, amazing stuff. His name is Mackay Wrigley, if you want to look him up. But basically, these stuff that come out every single day, Twitter is usually the first place to get them. There's also Hacker News, obviously, Product Hunt, all these different platforms as well, LinkedIn. But generally, I stick to Twitter. I think that's a great way, a great platform for you to understand like what the market sentiment is. I recently learned about this. It's sort of an extra thing that I want to mention. I learned about this concept called product zeitgeist fit. It's from a talk from A16Z, Andreessen Horowitz, that basically it's a really useful advice for founders out there actually. So if you're building a product market fit is no longer enough. You really need to understand how and what you're building if it fits into the existing zeitgeist, what people are looking for. So products die not because they run out of money, not because the founders lose interest. Sure, that happens, but most of the case, product dies because people don't care. And how do you make sure that people care? You got to stay on top of the zeitgeist. You got to stay on top of what people are talking about on Twitter, on Hacker News, and sort of shape the way you build your product that way. And yeah, that's a really cool concept. I think it's something that I wasn't aware of before. That's why AI is such a hot topic right now, and everyone is rushing to build AI products.
Yeah,
There's also got to be a balance, though. You got to be able to understand what you're building, if there's a moat, if there's a long-term business opportunity. Those are a couple of other factors as well. But I think product zeitgeist fit is definitely a really interesting concept. You should
yeah,
look it up if you guys are interested.
yeah. And the speed of iteration, right? I mean, I think
Yes.
at least you building that, we've seen it a little bit closer than anyone else. Not anyone else, that most of the people, and the speed you've developed that product and put it in production. And we were talking before you were hitting your first like revenue milestones
Mm,
already. I think that is so cool. I think it's a great way to be on top of things, which is just building stuff, right?
mm.
There is, I mean, I think it is right now the best moment in history to build software, right?
100%. Yeah. I feel like the thinking back about like my first foray into the startup land actually was back in 2018. That was before I built One Word Domains. That was I was building this out of all things an NFT marketplace in Tokyo. Back in the day, there was no. I mean, that was Zeit, right? Vercel was called Zeit back then,
Yeah,
but I
yeah,
wasn't really aware of Next.js. I was trying to learn React, and it was create React app was just a horrible experience. There's just so many what they call it, like institutional voids. There's just no proper frameworks or like proper platforms for you to be able to go from your idea to something that looks good and works really well in production. So yeah, we're like dev tool space is really mature, much more mature than what it was 5 years ago. So yeah, if you're building something, now is definitely the best time.
You've mentioned a couple of times your side projects, Stephen. Talk to us
Mhm.
a bit more about that. What are you building right now? What have you built in the past, and how do you combine that with your day to day?
Of course. So one thing that I love the most about Vercel is they're very encouraging when it comes to building side projects. And so back in September of 2022, so it's about 6 months ago now, I launched this side project called Dub. It's like it's an open source Bitly alternative. It's a link management platform for modern marketing teams. That's how I pitch it. But basically, it's built fully open source on top of Next.js, Vercel, using edge functions and edge middleware to ensure that all the links are redirected at less than 200 milliseconds. So it's a really fast experience, and the UI is built using Tailwind. It's a CSS framework that is really popular. A lot of people love the experience with it. And the back end is using Tinybird, and it's been an incredible experience using using Tinybird because it allows me to not have to worry about scale. I have some users that have links that has over 100,000 clicks, and Tinybird just returns the results within like 50 milliseconds, or like really really fast response times, 50 to 100 milliseconds.
mm,
So that's something that's a product that I've been building for about 6 months now. A lot of people have contributed to it on GitHub, and I'm constantly trying to basically improve the experience both for people who are using the product and also for people who want to self-host the product. That's something that I still need to do a bit of work on, the self-hosting aspect. But but yeah, what I find the reason why I'm really passionate about this product is also because I'm building this product to retire my parents. So my dad is about 60 years old now, 59, I think. Damn, I forgot his age. But so he's really old and he's getting towards that retirement age. And I really want to be able to give them something that sustains their day to day without them have to worrying about how are they going to make money. And the cool thing about Dub is it actually crossed $300 in monthly recurring revenue very recently. And to retire my parents, I need $2,000 a month. So it's about 15% of the way there. And yeah, with this sort of purpose, I think it really inspires me to keep building on top of it, keep marketing it. I feel like I
Yeah.
haven't done proper marketing for it. I've just been building. So I think the next couple of months, I really want to nail down the marketing aspect, launch a product hunt, do all these different initiatives to get the
Yeah.
word out there.
Look, I mean, I feel so bad about my parents now. As a-
Oh man.
so I hope my kids do the same. But very soon,
Yeah, I
the
mean
sooner the better.
they've been very supportive with whatever I tried. Like they're the parents that, like, they're Asian parents, and Asian parents have this bad reputation of being very controlling, right? They're like, oh, you got to be a doctor, lawyer. I forgot the third one, but all these like stereotypical Asian roles. But they've been very, very supportive for me. Like
Uh,
when I first went to college, I was like, Dad, Mom, I want to do biotechnology. And I quickly pivoted into data science and computer science, and they were like, "Cool, yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, keep doing what you're doing." And when I was like, "Dad, I'm going to build a really cool startup," the first one was a really stupid idea. He was very supportive though. He was like he was giving me feedback, this and that. And yeah, my mom has always been there for me as well, like just supporting me with some like blog posts, writing content
Crazy.
for the products I do. So yeah, definitely want to give back to them. Um, yeah, to the best of my ability.
Do they
Beautiful
know you're
initiative.
doing this because of them or for them? Do they know? Are they aware?
Yes, I actually just told them very recently, like about 2-3 weeks ago, that this is the product I'm building to retire you guys. Like this is sort of the end goal here. Obviously, I would love for it to grow beyond that. But yeah, I just told them not too long ago, because I personally didn't have this vision until about a month ago when I was like thinking about like how I can sort of realign my priorities and focus on the side, because I've been building a lot of side projects, and I really wanted to choose a few side projects that I want to dedicate more of my time into, and that sort of fits right into that category. And yeah, that's sort of when I told them, and they were like, "Wow, this is amazing, great, I'm proud of you." The typical stuff that parents
That's
would say.
amazing.
But yeah.
So now you're probably gonna get the weekly question of, "Hey Steven, how's it going? When can I retire? How's
It's
the
the
MRR
investor
going?"
report. It's the investors
Yes.
report.
Investor reports monthly. Got to tell them,
Asking for
20% churn.
the churn rate, yeah, the net rollout rate, yeah.
Exactly.
Oh
And
boy.
they will ask ChatGPT about the typical metrics they should ask you for.
Yes.
So be ready for that.
Oh boy. Yeah, I know. I introduced them to ChatGPT not too long ago, and they were like mind blown. And they were like, "Can I get access to your account, please?" And I was like, "Okay, sure," because I have ChatGPT Plus. That's kind of funny.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
that's
pretty
amazing.
cool.
But yeah.
Steven, before we get to the last few questions that we usually ask our guests, are there
Mhm.
any companies out there that you look up to when it comes to developer relations that you focus on because you think, hey, these guys are doing something super cool. We've got to learn from them.
Oh, that's a good question. I do think there are a lot of really good developer. I don't want to sound like a broken record here, but Vercel is definitely doing a good job with that aspect. I mentioned it first because I'm very familiar with the stuff we're doing, both from a community standpoint, content creation standpoint, and just staying on top of like Guillermo, our CEO, would respond to any, like, literally if someone that has like, I don't know, like 10 or 50 followers, like very little followers, they were like, okay, uh how do I solve this really complex question on Twitter? Like, if you just, like, on Twitter, if you have a question, you ask any one of our people on our team, chances are you get a response. So like we're always constantly staying on top of our communities, I call it pulse, like understand how they're doing. So that's one thing. I would say another company that comes to mind would be, um, obviously, OpenAI. They're doing a really good job there. The momentum that they've created behind their products has sort of spurred. Like, for example, their ChatGPT plugin waitlist is just blown up, and everyone really wants access to start building on top of what they've created. So just having a really cool product or platform um, is going to give you a big advantage when building out a developer relations team
Yeah.
or initiative.
I think it's the way we market products is changing completely. I can think of
Hmm.
companies like Linear, for example, who
Linear,
is
yeah.
like very recently. They were born like a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, something like that. But the amount of effort that they put behind every communication, every
Yeah.
announcement, every blog post, every changelog entry, that's so
Oof.
it's so amazing.
Yeah,
It's so crazy.
that's yeah. It's great that you mentioned linear because this is something that I've been talking in all of my like when I go on podcasts. So basically, it's a hill that I'm willing to die on, which is well designed products will always outcompete like any incumbents or any like large companies that don't have a good design. Like for example, a good example I can think of is Salesforce. Like their product, sure they have a large market cap, but their product is not really well designed. Um, and if they don't innovate, there's always going to be someone like a smaller company that come in and take up some part of the market share because people are just tired of that poor user experience. So yeah, I think Linear is a great example. I didn't mention that because we were talking mainly about developer relations, and they're more of
Yeah,
a they're targeting product teams. But I'm a huge fan of
yeah,
Linear. I think what they're doing with, like you said, just having a high bar of quality for
yeah,
everything that you
exactly.
ship, no matter if it's a
Mm.
change log post or if it's an actual like feature that you're launching for a product. That's something that we try to amplify here, try to emulate here at Vercel. And myself personally, with all my side projects like Dub, I put a lot of thought and effort into the design. Another
Mm.
company that I forgot to mention is Tiny Bird. You guys have been killing it. Like I was looking at the sort of content that's been being put out on Twitter. You've been doing a lot of threads. That's also really good. I think that's another good example of a company that is like succeeding at developer marketing.
It's a great it's a great team behind all that. I think but still, I mean, we're a little bit behind Vercel, for example. But yeah, trying to.
Getting
And
there, getting
I
there.
think it is actually one of the things that we normally talk to startups here in Europe, which is that
Mm,
the capacity for distribution or the go to market motion that you can see coming from US companies is most of the times very hard to compare with the European companies. I think in terms of technology, it's very competitive, but in terms of distribution, I mean, there is still a big gap between the two countries, I would say, between the two regions on
mm,
how we take things to market and how we think. I think it's a mindset problem. It's not a talent problem.
mm,
But it's true though that most of the times the ones that are innovating more on how to take things or how to take products to market are in the US
mhm.
side and of
Right.
the world, and I think it's a lot of it's a lot of things to be learned from what you guys
Yeah.
do at Vercel, for example, for them too.
Yeah, I feel like there are definitely exceptions to the norm. Like people, I know a lot of really talented people. Like a good friend of mine, Miguel. He's from I think Barcelona. I forgot, but like, he's based in Spain, and he posts a lot of really cool projects from time to time. But I think you're right in terms of like the go to market. That's actually interesting. I haven't thought about it from that perspective, but there's definitely a lot of ways that European companies can take like inspiration from the way US companies ship and
Yeah,
like
yeah,
go to market.
yeah,
But at the same time, like there's definitely got to be a balance, and I think European companies have a way better work life balance than US companies. Like there's this meme on Twitter where people are like parts of the world that don't want to work after 4 p.m. Bam, Europe. But it's a good thing, like you actually get to you basically like you live to work instead of you work to live, if I'm getting that
yeah.
right.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah. We know what you
and
mean.
yeah, I think that's something that I personally am trying to get better at because I would consider myself a bit of a workaholic. My girlfriend always complains that, but I'm trying to like get better at finding a balance there, and I think you guys are good at that. So that's yeah. If we can trade a bit of our extremes, between the US and Europe, I think that would
Yeah,
be a good middle ground.
Is the Miguel
absolutely.
that you mentioned, Miguel Piedrahita, the purple hair
Correct.
guy?
Yes,
Okay,
purple hair
okay.
guy. He's amazing. Do you
Purple
guys know
hair.
him?
Yeah,
You guys should talk to him. Oh my
Yeah.
god,
yeah.
he would be a great fit for this
I
podcast.
think
Like that.
I met him one in person. I think I actually met him in person in Madrid at some point, or we talked on the
Nice.
phone. And I think he was like 14 or 15, and so he
Yeah.
was in high school. And
Mm.
he the capacity he had back then to launch new products and stuff like that, which
Yeah,
he
it's
still does
amazing.
today. Because I mean, I don't know how many hours of sleep he gets per day. Because but the pace of launching stuff, whether it's products, features, experiments, and stuff like that, it's actually crazy.
Yeah, and we
100%.
also have Kiko Beats.
Oh yeah, yeah,
So
exactly.
Yes.
we
Kiko is
have
amazing.
him also. As Kiko is amazing. He's also
That's
like
awesome.
launching lots of stuff all the time. I don't know
Microlink. I'm a huge
how he
fan.
does. Yeah,
Yeah.
Microlink, yeah.
microlink.
He's killing
This
it. Yeah,
Tesla
I think.
stuff. Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, he was on the
yeah.
podcast?
I don't think
I
so, but
don't
we've
think
talked to him
so.
several times. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Nice.
We know him
Yeah, a few
well.
So,
like that we can sort of I'll sort of list out a few people now. Kikovic, Miguel, Guillermo. I think these would be like these are really amazing builders. I think they'll make a good episode on this podcast too.
Absolutely. And so, one before we get to the last question about book recommendations or content
Hmm.
recommendation, I was just thinking about a recent conversation with one of our portfolio companies,
Hmm.
Steven, that was asking us that they had this thought about hiring the first developer relations person, and they had
Okay.
this question about where would he or she fit in the org structure. Should he
Right.
be under product? Should he be under marketing? Should he be under sales?
Mm.
How are you guys structured at Vercel, and how are you guys thinking about this?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think their first developer advocate hire should should fit under marketing, but at the same time should have a seed or be really close to the executive level, because developer advocates need to be aware of any like product decisions, like large product decisions that are being made, and at the same time, they are the source of all the user complaints or user requests, and they need to be able to surface that directly to C-suite or like the executive team. So yeah, I mean, the way I think we have it at Vercel is DevX is, I believe, is under marketing, growth marketing, but at the same time, like Lee, our head of DevX, like he's really close to he's always at all the executive offsites. So yeah, I think it's really important for them for developer advocates to be close to be part of the executive team or like to be able to contribute there
yeah,
Hmm.
because you're essentially the founder, an extension of the founder, right? You're representing the
yeah,
company like it's your own on social
Their
media, on
spokesperson.
GitHub.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you have to have a lot of conviction about the what you're selling or what you're representing, and at the same time be able to sort of funnel back what people are talking
yeah,
about, what people want back to the main team. So
Yeah.
yeah.
absolutely.
So last question: any book, newsletter, content
Oh boy.
recommendations for our audience?
Yeah, that's a good one. It's funny, I haven't been doing enough. I haven't been doing a lot of reading
You
recently.
don't have time, probably, with all
I
the
Just
stuff.
know,
building.
but I've
Well, you
been,
read
yeah,
documentation. You read documentation.
I know the documentation is all I read now, or like ChatGPT explanations. So, but I do want to sort of get back to reading the one book or like website that I recently read that stuck with me a lot. Um, I would say it's definitely like, I mean, it's a bit overused, probably, and a bit cliched, but Paul Graham's like
Essays.
Yeah,
his
the
essays.
essays.
Yeah,
Yeah.
can
Yeah,
I can I can I
those
come up with a
are
few?
great.
So that's one, and I've been watching this YouTube channel called, I think it's EO. I forgot the exact name, but they've been doing like founder interviews with, I
Uh
believe
huh.
one of it was with the founder of Evernote. Yeah, Evernote.
Yeah.
Evernote.
Yeah, the let me actually find that channel. It's really really interesting and it's really high quality.
EO, you said?
EO, yeah. Evernote. Let me
Oh
see if
yeah,
I
it's
can
here.
see it.
EO, yeah. Yeah.
It's EO, right? My internet's not working.
Entrepreneurship
Right?
opportunities. Yeah.
I think it's the first
Yes,
time we hear about this.
Yeah, yeah.
it's
I've
so
never seen
good.
this
Maybe.
before.
Yeah, it's so good. It's really well created, and they have really big names, like people
Yeah.
coming on to talk about it. Uh, Another one that I found is like another episode that I really liked was with the founder of, I think, Speak.com. Like they're like this
Uh-huh.
language app that uh, that really blew up in Korea and is now like taking over the rest of the
Yeah.
world. And they interviewed the three founders on the team. That was a great episode as
Yeah.
well. So yeah, that's another
And,
good one. I have been doing a
have you
lot of
seen the browser company, the
yes.
videos they're posting on YouTube? The company behind
I
Arc,
haven't.
the browser.
Art?
I have not.
They've been doing like, it's so good. I mean, I
No way.
recommend you guys that, because they're the last one that I saw was their preparation for the next board meeting that they had.
Mm-hmm.
They are editing the videos, and they are like posting directly some recordings from meetings for reviewing design
Wow.
materials or all the stuff. The
Mhm.
browser company is the name of the company,
Nice.
and it's a
I'm
very
definitely.
cool one too.
That's amazing. Yeah, I love what they're building as well. Arc is great.
Like, it's
I'm a huge
amazing.
fan.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
yeah, definitely gonna check that out.
Yep.
Awesome.
Awesome, Steven. This has been great. Thanks a ton for your time.
Of course.
Yeah.
Thank you
Thanks a
for
lot.
having me. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks a lot. It's a pleasure.